Thank you, everyone. I'm going to share one story and 2 poems. The kids are all right. That's A-L-L, right. And wrong, right and left, as in hands and brains and political persuasions. I work at Bothing Treeland Nursery and Farms in Woodland Hills as a tree seller, problem solver, and marriage counselor. It's a good old boy place of portable nature and people of every stripe. Treeland, my accidental muse. The coincidence of wartime horses. Treeland will become condo land in about 5 years. Since before the advent of the 101 freeway to this very day, trees of all sizes and boxes of all sizes have stood and waited to be sold to those developing land elsewhere. It's a kind of sacred soil to many folks. Adjacent to Treeland is Hidden Hills, a long-time development of homes and curving streets amongst small hills. Turns out it's named well, as you have to ask the way to the hills that are hidden and to this nursery that is a well-kept secret. One day at work, the small talk between the nerdiest of the tree sellers turns out it's not me. And a lady and her father lighted on the imminent dissolution of the present property, which many consider a rural preserve in the midst of urban chaos and cacophony. Being curious and very customer-friendly, I stopped, propped my elbows up on the tall wooden desk, and listened to Paul dispense the facts, propounding loudly that, sadly, yes, when all the regulation permits were granted, this land of plants would become abodes of all sizes, still a land of boxes, it seems. I chimed in, imagine, back in the early 1950s, there wasn't even a stop sign out there on the road. No freeway. You just paused at the dirt road, looked right and left, and then set out, taking your chances with whatever roamed the roads back then. Oh, I said excitedly, and Hidden Hills just over there had very few big homes back then, except there was a stable at the far end for the famous Arabian Lipizzaner dancing horses, rescued from Hitler in Austria. Imagine. Now, the lady's father, who visited his daughter in California from Chicago each spring to help with her garden, looked very moved at my mention of the rescued horses. He choked back some tears and said, I was in the 122nd Cavalry that rescued those horses in Austria. I helped save them. Perhaps he hadn't known that during these years of gardening with his daughter, he was right next to the rural plot where the beautiful Arabian beasts had come to live out their days, these Arabs from another world, welcome to our hills beside a dirt road in the young San Fernando Valley, where much earlier Spanish horses raced over hills and ducked under native oaks. Our hearts were racing as he unexpectedly learned the fate of this cadre of exceptional horses. I didn't want to intrude. They weren't my customers, so I just said, congrats, patting his shoulder like he may have patted the shoulders of the majestic four-legged refugees. You did good, I said. Then I quietly padded away to do chores on the tree farm, still a thriving place of plant business, hard by the busiest road in the state, an open loop of history and memory closed like a lariat, a mere handful of soft, soft leather. Thank you. That's the kind of place it is. You're just there, things happen quite unexpectedly. The story was told to me by another customer, so of course I remembered it, and that was just a coincidence. So, my second poem is in two parts, and each section has its own title. And Mrs. B in the poem is Mrs. Boving, and Teledoc is their go-to IT and fix-it guy. Okay. Mrs. B said, "Don't rake those leaves on the deck. We have a house girl." I said, "Good," to myself, because the yard girl is what I am. I kneel on the grass, around the wooden boxes, on the wooden deck over the creek, lean over the wooden split rail fence that keeps the rabbits out. I'm the yard girl who doesn't have to gather the sycamore leaves or the oak or redwood from off the deck anywhere, even around the tender Rex begonias, especially like a winter coat now that summer is gone. The boats of magnolia leaves, two-toned, immaculate litter, fold in with the deadly sycamore. A cornflakes morning, this one. Mrs. B said, "I can't decide, it's a mess around here, lame teledoc, bad back." So George and Tony show up to move the desk. She says, "Good, you sent big ones." She's so small. I guess they all look big to her. I'm pretty much always there around the family business. Yard girl. Leaves like paperwork. Leaves like blankets. Like sand dunes, like hairs on your head, all numbered and blessed. Farm boy. My father started life on a Kansas farm. I guess I'm a country girl because I don't mind using my hands either. When I discovered that working with my hands was the most comfortable life, I finally felt safe. Do we use our hands and sometimes our hearts and then sometimes our minds? It seems using my limbs has always been my way to grapple with tough matters. My father died a sudden natural death, no warning, unless becoming more slumped, more gray, more fragile was a warning. I will be trying to say goodbye to him the rest of my life, I guess. How do we sufficiently greet and hail and sign off anyway? I saw the truck that brings the long, long towels to wipe the farmer's hands where I work the other day. It was the truck from the company my father helped run when he stopped being a farm boy anymore. The linen supplying the tree suppliers. Oh. As if the unknown truck driver knew who I was, my father's daughter, yard girl now. He waved. He waved goodbye to me that day. Thank you. So, our tools, like Dane was saying in that storeroom or that tool shed. Well, not quite the same kind of things, but it's a lot of chemicals in there. And for some reason, well, even yesterday I forgot my work gloves, so I'm looking around for gloves. But this particular day, work gloves. I found 5 work gloves, all right hands, with the names Simon and Larry and Norm, handwritten, inside the cuffs, waiting patiently in the storeroom for their partners to finally turn up. The left hands, out on the town, finding out what right hands have been talking about all this time, free at last. 1 glove, a whole hand of gloves, 25 fingers. Oh, lefts are so sinister, so criminal, flighty, liberal, leftover, shamelessly dispensing left-handed compliments. At least the rights are safe and sound, sticking close to home, though lonely. And Simon and Larry and the whole lot may yet find a way to generate their mates from the 5 leftover rights and all that sweat-soaked leather. Thank you.